How did an African American identity emerge in the 18th century?
It took quite a while for a single African American identity to emerge in colonial America because the large slave trade of the 18th century brought people from many different cultures and many different societies in West Africa. We shouldn't think that because people came from Africa, they were all the same people, any more than people in Europe were all the same people. People from Germany, France, England, Scotland were often fighting with each other, and that's the same thing in Africa. They had their own different societies and languages and religious practices. So you might say an early version of what we later would call the melting pot takes place in America among Africans, where people from various kinds of backgrounds who would never have encountered each other except for the experience of slavery are thrown together. After a generation or two, the African traditions fade a bit. They still remember Africa, but the African languages fade, and a more coherent African American identity begins to develop. This is particularly prominent where the population begins reproducing itself. In the British colonies, rather quickly, the birth rate begins to rise among these slaves, and so you begin to get eventually an American-born generation of slaves who are more assimilated, you might say, into African American life than the original slaves who were brought in from many different backgrounds.